many opportunities throughout the year to practice what we are calling life discovery interviews. This is our first one for the school. It's also our first one as an entire school, school-wide. You will hopefully be practicing throughout the school year in your classrooms, potentially, in smaller settings, things like that. So we thought we would kick the school year off today with an all-school life discovery interview. And what these are simply conversations where we learn about professionals, family members, people within our community and beyond, just to hear their journey and their story. Today is very special because, as you all know, yesterday marked the 24th anniversary of September 11th, where the terrorist attacks on our country happened. So we have a very special guest today, and I, without further ado, going to have Noah, you're doing a prayer, yes? And then Emma's going to introduce our guest.
Good morning, everyone. I invite you to bow your heads and pray with me. Lord, today I want us all to remember all the lives that have been lost in 9/11, whether it be from the first floor all the way to the 110th floor, or the front row of the plane to the back. Every single life lost was an individual person. It could have been someone's mother, daughter, niece, aunt, son, husband, grandson. No matter who they were someone's person, and someone mourned them. For this, we pray for all of the families and loved ones left behind, that they may find some sort of peace and healing in the midst of all their grief. We pray for all the first responders, all of them who rushed in that day, not even all of them from New York, for the ones who risked their lives that day to protect the city they may have loved and the strangers they didn't even know. We extend prayers to all the survivors, that they may continue to heal from this tragic day. And we pray for all of the passengers on all of the planes, but especially on United Airlines Flight 93, where they took over the plane and there were no survivors. And for this we pray, amen.
We are so honored and humbled to hear from our guest today, Miss Lisa Amatura. Miss Amatura was on the 78th floor of the North Tower on September 11th. She was unknowingly pregnant at the time. Miss Amatura was in New York City for her job in tech sales and was scheduled to fly home that day at 8 p.m. Miss Amatura lives in Orchard Park with her daughter, Ellie Watson. She also has two older daughters, Campbell and Francesca, stepdaughters, and her beloved dogs. Please join us in welcoming Miss Lisa Amatura.
Test. Want to know how loud it is?
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? So thank you for joining us today. I know that you have a daughter here in the audience, for those of you that didn't know that. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and your story prior to 9/11, 2001?
Sure. So thank you for having me. It's just great to see all you girls this morning. So I'm from Williamsville. I grew up and went to public school all the way through Forest Elementary, Mill Middle, Williamsville South. And I dabbled a little bit in college, didn't know what I wanted to do. When I was 24, I was working in a coffee shop and I still had no plan. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, but I really wasn't worried about it. So there was a guy that came into the coffee shop every day and he said, you'd be really good on the phones at Ingram Micro. And I said, I don't know what they do. He said, do you have a resume? I said, no. But I put a resume together that included babysitting and waitressing and how did I overcome a challenge? Well, I dropped a tray of food and I had an extra shirt in the car. So that was my overcoming challenges. So I started working at Ingram Micro and I was there for 10 years. I started in inside sales and worked my way up to an account manager in the field. So I had New York City. I would travel to New York City maybe every 2 to 3 weeks and I would try and go on a Sunday to a Tuesday, fly in, enjoy my Sunday. I had a 2-year-old at home, her name was Campbell. I was married to my husband at the time. We were living in Lancaster, and my best friend Tracy is sitting next to me. She's my best friend that I met when I was 15, and so 40 years. And she's been through it with me, so she's seen ups, downs, upside downs, inside outs. So I'm so glad that you're here. She was in Germany on 9/11, that's a whole other story. So I started working there, and I had this cadence where I would go to New York, I would keep a bag packed up on the landing, and I would just go Sunday to Tuesday, Sunday to Tuesday. And that day, I had planned on coming home on the 8 o'clock flight. So I think that for me, it was like, okay, what do you want to do with your life? Well, I really don't know when I'm 24, and that gives me some angst. But for me, I also believe that at the right time in the right place, that's when opportunities come to you, right?
Thank you for sharing.
So what were you doing the morning of 9/11, like, in that exact moment?
Yeah. So I'll just back up a little bit to Sunday, because Sunday was a great day. I went running in Central Park. Monday, there was a storm that came in, and I was walking in Central Park, and it was big thunder, lightning, rain, and I just stood there in Central Park and I said, I am so lucky that I get to do this. I get to go to New York City with my husband and child at home, run around, see clients. I had on Monday, the 10th, I saw clients. I took the Staten Island ferry from Staten Island back to Manhattan. I always stayed in the same hotel, so it was the Shoreham on 55th between 5th and 6th. And I was so used to telling the cab driver that when I would get into New York City, Shoreham 55th between 5th and 6th. And it's important because that, at the end of 9/11, at the end of that day, that's significant, and maybe we'll talk about it in a bit. But so Monday, I took the ferry back from Staten Island. I went and had a mani-pedi, and I put on this color, which is Big Apple Red. So I always have it on every 9/11. And Monday night, we met friends at a bar for dinner to watch the first Monday Night Football game of the season. So we were all there, and I was a very small person. You'll see this shirt. And I remember looking at my friend, and she's like, I said, oh, I really want to get that cheeseburger with bacon. And she's like, get it. And I'm like, oh no, I don't know, will you split it with me? So get the cheeseburger, get the dessert, get it all. Because I split it with her, it was great. Went back to my hotel Tuesday morning, 9/11. I packed my bag in my hotel room, and I called home. It's probably 6:30. Talked to my husband, talked to Campbell, who was 2, said I'm going to my meeting. Never said where. I had never been in the building before. So I got in a cab with my rolling suitcase and my friend Sherry, and we were driving there, and I was like, look at the sky, it's beautiful. Look, how cool is this that we get to do this? We are so lucky. We're gonna have an all-day training at the tower, and we were gonna invite clients in starting around 9 o'clock. Do you want me to go from there, or do you have another question?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So when you were at work, you were at the towers, at what point did you know that something was wrong?
So with the World Trade Center, at the time you had to go up to a counter, and it was almost like if you went into the airport and you talked to the ticket lady. And you had to have your photograph taken, and you had to have a little card that said visitor. And it was like a little credit card. So I had the picture taken, I went through the turnstile, I put it in my purse. So I carried my laptop in a backpack. So I had a laptop, backpack, I had a purse, and I had a rolling suitcase. So I went up to the 78th floor, and the 78th floor was where you could take the express elevator. So anybody that had to go above 78 would get on the elevator, and they would go up to the 78th floor in like 30 seconds. So I got on the express elevator, I stepped out with all my stuff, and Sherry and I were setting up breakfast. And again, I'm like, oh my God, that ham and cheese croissant sandwich is so good. So we were setting up these almost like catering dishes, right, with steam coming up, and the offices were like one next to each other. So there was 3 offices, and I was meeting with the gentleman. Again, I had never been in the building before. I was with 6 colleagues. We were gonna have clients in all day to do a demo of this large tech storage thing. And the gentleman that I met with was named Mike Hingson, and he was blind, and he had a dog named Rosie. So if anybody looks up the name Mike Hingson and Rosie, you'll find his story. And I was meeting with him, and he was going to do a demo of this thing by hand, no sight. So the dog was there, Sherry and I were there. We were setting up like a little tripod that's welcome to our clients, and we were going to do a morning session and an afternoon session, and then I was going to go home. So I was standing there, and one of my colleagues, Jason, said, I'm going to go down and I'm going to get ready to greet clients. So he took the elevator down by himself. Everybody made it out, by the way, all 7 of us that were there. So I was sitting there, and I said to Sherry, I said, I'm going to go put some lipstick on. I'm going to go to the bathroom, which is around the corner. She's like, no, just put it on here. And I said, but I don't have a mirror. And she said, I'll make sure it's straight. So I put that lipstick on, and I went to go look out the window to look at the Statue of Liberty. And the windows were very narrow. I don't know if you've seen pictures. So you had to kind of get close. And I was looking out the window, and that's when the plane hit on the 987 and above. And it was a huge explosion. So I had to steady myself. Ceiling tiles were falling, and I looked out the window, and there's huge orange ball, right, and papers everywhere. And I'm like, I look at Sherry and I said, what do we do? And the building had listed a little bit. It was designed so that if something hit it, it would move, right? And so I thought, oh, they probably had a gas line explosion or something. It's okay, it's not good, but it's, so that's when I knew, right? I think it was 8:36, I think the first one hit. And Jason had just gone down, he stepped off the elevator, and the elevator fell. And he was on the phone and said, I gotta go. Something just happened at the World Trade Center, the elevator fell. So he was by himself the whole time.
Okay, so at that point, you headed towards the stairwell?
Yeah, so I said I didn't know where to go because I wasn't paying attention. So I encourage you, all of you girls, when you are anywhere that you need to get out of, make sure that you look at that escape plan on the wall. Even if it's at a hotel, I see it all the time. I was like, yeah, that's the escape plan. Look at that and know how to get where you gotta go, because I didn't. So Pat Dempsey, he was my manager, and he said, I know where the stairs are. So he said, just follow me. So I said, should I bring all my stuff? Should I grab my stuff? He goes, no, we'll come back later and get it. So we went into the stairwell, and as I was walking towards the stairs, the elevator doors opened, and a woman came out, and she was completely burned, and she was asking for help. And I said to her, I don't know if I can help you, but come with us. And one of the things that I'm still working through is that, and I'll probably have to make amends at some point, but I never went back and checked on Mike Kingston and his dog.
I was just going to ask you that same question.
Mm-hmm. I booked out of there, and it still bothers me.
But that's your initial reaction, is you want to just get to safety.
Yeah. So we went into the stairwell, and it was one of these things where they're very small, which was interesting to me because the buildings were so massive. I thought it would be a very expansive stairwell, but it was really just 1, 2, 3, 4, one floor. And you could look down and see, kind of all the way down. But I remember there was numbers stamped on the wall. So 77, 76, and I'm like, I'm just gonna focus on those numbers, and that's all I'm gonna do. So when we were around the 50th floor, we had come down now about 28 flights, we felt the impact from the second plane. And somebody had said to us while we were making our way down to 50, oh, it was a plane, and I thought, oh, geez, that's awful for the people that were in that plane. But thank God it was above me, and we're not in danger. And Pat kept saying to me, he's like, everything that went wrong is above us, we're okay. So, do you want to continue going with the...
I was just going to ask you that what you just said there, were people talking in the stairwell? Were people lifting each other up? Were they helping each other? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So it was crowded, very, very crowded, very hot, filled with jet fuel, the smell of jet fuel. People were not pushing each other, but we were very close to one another. It was very calm. We allowed anybody who was really catastrophically injured come on the left side and go down, and people would help, obviously. If there was a woman behind me who said, I was here in '93 when this happened, we're gonna be just fine. And nobody was panicking. As we got a little further down, around the 30th floor, it got a little dicey because I'm a short person and people were starting to push. And it was getting a little bit difficult to breathe because of the jet fuel. And so I had a gray pantsuit on, and I had this white shirt on underneath. And I was embarrassed because I had to take it off and put my blazer back on to use this to cover my mouth. And I was embarrassed because my boss was right there, and I didn't want him to turn around. I have to get this thing out of here. And so I used this shirt myself. I gave it to others to put on their mouth. And then when we got out of the building, I rolled it up and I tucked it behind my blazer, and that's where it stayed. And this is it, size small, Banana Republic. And it's a short sleeve shirt, and I never washed it. And I put it in this bag just because, there was 188 different toxins in the air. So there was 188 different toxins in the air. There was glass, and there was, you name it. And so I keep this in here just because I don't want to expose anybody to any of that. So people were not panicking because they didn't think the building was going to come down. Even when we knew around the 30th floor when the firefighters were coming up, all really young, strong, brave men with 60 pounds of gear on their back, an axe, a hat, oxygen, full gear, and it's 90-something degrees in the stairwell. And they're encouraging us. They're saying, you're gonna be okay, make your way down. And you know what? They were all going up. They were going up, and they probably never got out.
You were so high up, how long did it take you to get down to safety?
So it took about an hour, and it was very slow going, and I started to get a little uncomfortable because I was, it was getting very crowded, and people were pushing, so I remember I kind of stood up on the railing a little bit to try and get some air because I was so much shorter than most of the people that were there. So it took about an hour.
And what were your first thoughts, when you got down and realized what was actually happening?
So I didn't really understand the magnitude of the situation until I stepped outside. But I will tell you that as a working mom, which is a difficult choice that you all may have to make, I was working, and that's why I was there. And that's why I was away from my 2-year-old. So when that pain hit, that sense of, why am I here? Why am I not home with my 2-year-old? But then I have to remember all of the great things about working, right? I learned so much, and I got to meet people, but at that moment, I questioned my choice. Should I have just never done this? And the first thing I said to myself is, who is going to teach Campbell how to braid her hair? That's what I thought. That was on when the plane hit. When I got out, we had to walk down to the mezzanine level, and there was an escalator that was not working, obviously, and the sprinkler systems were on, and there was just so much debris and broken glass. And I remember I had an open-toe shoe on, and I looked down and I'm like, oh, God, this pedicure, I can't believe this. So things that you just don't even, by the way, around me were engine parts, people parts, people falling in the glass, and so you almost feel like you're in a movie. I almost felt like I was in a movie. So when we got out and stepped out into the light, there was so many first responders, FBI, etc., and they're saying, don't look up, run as fast as you can. And when somebody says don't look up, what did I do? I looked up. And that was the scariest, most frightening experience because people were jumping. People were jumping out of the building, and they were just where I was. And these tiny little people were just falling through the sky, and I thought, what was the choice that they just had to make? What was worse that they thought that that was a better choice? And that's so heartbreaking. Because they knew when they jumped that that was going to be it. And maybe they thought, when we were younger and we watched cartoons and there was somebody with a big trampoline, maybe I'll grab onto something. Whatever it was better than what they were experiencing. And that was so frightening to me because I was just up there. And then I saw the gaping hole in the North Tower and the South Tower, and I was like, I finally realized the magnitude of the situation.
At this point, you were with your colleagues?
Yes. So I was there's 3 of us, so there were 7 total. Jason was by himself. He got out of the elevator and booked. And then it was me, Pat, and Sherry, the 3 of us. And then Todd Riley, who's been a great friend. He used to be my boyfriend, quite honestly, when I was like 15. So Todd Riley was there, and Amy Phillips was there, and Mark McClure. So the 3 of them, and interestingly enough, Todd and Amy were just friends, and now they're married. So it's kind of cool. What was it?
So that's okay, I just asked if you were with your colleagues.
Yes.
And then they said to run, I know that you looked, but then you ran with them. And
Yes.
so.
I wanted to get to a payphone because I didn't leave with anything except that lipstick in my hand. I had nothing, no clothes, no ID, no money, nothing. So, and somebody had asked me in the stairwell, my cell phone is working, do you want to call your family? And I said, absolutely not. Because if you know Dan, right? My ex-husband, who is like one of my best friends now, I can't call him from a burning building and say, I'm in a burning building. I want to just, if it was the last call that morning to say, good morning, heading to my meeting, I wanted that to be the last call. I didn't want to say, I'm panicked, I'm scared. So I didn't take the cell phone, but I wanted to go to a payphone, but there was all these lines. So I was like, I don't know if I should wait. And I was about 15 minutes away on foot, headed towards the Brooklyn Bridge, which I could see, when I heard this rumbling, like it was a freight train. And it was, the noise was so scary because we had just experienced the plane hitting. And that feeling of like, that noise. And we looked over and we saw the South Tower falling. South Tower fell first, even though it was hit second. So the North Tower was hit first. A little higher up, the South Tower was hit at 78. Anybody on 78 didn't make it. Anybody above couldn't get out because the stairs were blocked. So it's like, okay, it hit 78 of the South Tower. I was on 78 of the North Tower. It just so happened that just is the way it worked out. Oh, so I did find the payphone. Do you want me to keep going or no? Do you have another question? So I waited online for the payphone, but now I'm trying to walk ahead of this dust cloud that many people see when they look at footage from 9/11. So I'm waiting, and then the dust cloud is coming, so I know I have to keep ahead of that. So I was never covered in that dust. You see some pictures of people who are really covered. I just kept staying ahead of it, and finally I got to a payphone, and I could get out on an 800 line, and I knew the 800 line for my office. So I called my office, and Jim Fuzak answered the phone. He's like, Ingram Micro, can you hold? And I said, Jim, it's Lisa Amatura. I know I cannot hold. Here's where I am. This is my husband's phone number. I have to go. Call him and tell him I got out. And then they had called my husband that morning and said, have you talked to Lisa today? And he's like, yeah, I talked to her this morning, and she's going to her meeting. And they're like, okay, you should probably come to the office. And that's how he found out. And so I got to Jim and I hung up the phone, but then the North Tower fell. So I didn't ever say where I was, I just said I was out. So it was a little dicey there for those first few minutes. But my husband went to Ingram, although he didn't want to, and he said, I want to talk to Jim Fuzak. I want to know if that was her, if he knows her, and he knows her voice, and if it was really her. So he said, yeah, he said, that was definitely her, definitely her.
So then, after that call, when did you speak to your family?
Mm-hmm. So I walked 3 hours back to my hotel, the Shore, I'm on 55th, between 5th and 6th, because that's where I knew where to go. I wasn't so familiar with the city that I could just, I know where I'm going, but I thought that was a safe bet because they know who I am and maybe they'll give me a room even though I don't have any money and no idea anything, but my colleagues did. So I was walking back to the hotel and I recognized that one of my clients had an office on the street that I was walking on. So I went up and I asked if I could use their conference room to call my family. So I called my husband, my mother, my father, my sister. My best friend was in Germany, so I couldn't call her. But yesterday I spent a lot of time talking to, like I was at my mom's yesterday. I said, tell me about where you were. What was it going on for you? So once I had that call in the conference room and they knew I was almost uptown, okay, she's good, she's good. So everybody gathered at my house in Lancaster. So my sister was there with her 10-month-old son. My 2-year-old was there, my mother, my sister-in-laws. Everybody was there, neighbors. And somebody took a video of it and lots of pictures. And it's like, if I didn't get out, they would still gather. So almost like looking into your own, ending. It was very, very strange. So after I called them there, I kept walking. So in about 3 hours, I turned the corner, and Tracy knows this guy, Peter DeMarco. Peter was my vice president of sales at Ingram for a long time. And when I started, I was 24 and I thought I knew it all, and I wanted to do it my way. And Peter spent a lot of time over the years coaching me to do it the way that it should be done in corporate America, right? I wanted to use flowers on my presentation slides, and he's like, no, you have to use the corporate template. I'm like, oh, God. So he and I had this interesting back and forth, and he watched me grow. And so when I started at 24 and now I'm 31, I'm 6 years in, and Peter was in a cab on the way to meet me. And he called me around 7 a.m. and said, hey, what's going on? I said, oh, I'm in the Banana Republic down below because Sherry has on a blue suit with black socks and she wants blue socks. So I said, we're down in the Banana Republic, we're going up. And so he knew we were all up there, and he was on a conference call on his cell phone in a cab. You had my office back in Williamsville, big conference room, everybody's on that call. And then my friend Chris, she was in Boston. So 3-way conference call. And Peter said, yeah, I'm going to meet everybody, we're going up, we're having a great day. And all of a sudden Chris said, wait a minute, something just happened, a plane just hit. And Peter was like, well, what floor? Where? That's where all of our people are. So Peter, in that moment, and I had a chance to talk to him about it, said, I have to go and tell 7 families that their loved ones are gone because they were working for us. And now we have to plan 7 funerals and memorials. And so he was in a cab, and his driver, and he said, please take me to the tower when the plane hit. He said, no, I'm not going to take you there. He said, I'll take you home. I'll feed you. My wife will make you some food. And Peter's like, no, just take me to the hotel. So I just figured if I was going to go anywhere and see anything or anybody that I knew, and I turned the corner, and Peter DeMarco was standing there. First person I saw. And I was like, oh my God. It was really special for me because I did it, right? I made it. I got out. So whatever you taught me about work and life and bravery and being strong, I just did it. I did it.
You talked a lot about very intricate details, right? From what you ate the night before to what color your nail polish was and what you wore, what other people around you wore. Very, very specific. You name a lot of people by name. Can you tell us a little bit about now, 24 years later, what is your relationship with those people, if you have one still at this point, and anything now, like you mentioned your nail polish, you still wear it to this day. Is there anything, again, that specifically that you remember then and that what it means to you now?
Sure. So yesterday I started the day early, dropping Ellie off here, and I went home and I sat for a little bit and watched the live footage of that day. So it was like 8:30. The news put it on as if it was that morning. So I watched a little bit of that. And then I get a lot of contact from friends on 9/11. So text messages that I respond to. There's one colleague that calls me every 9/11, and I don't pick up when I see his number because he leaves a voicemail every 9/11, and I save them. So whenever I see, it's Danny Leber. So whenever I see Danny Leber call, I don't pick up, and then I call him back later in the day because I want that voicemail, and he knows that. So I called him yesterday. He was going out on his boat with his wife, and they had just lost a son to addiction 3-4 years ago. So they're still hurting. So I called them and just told them how much that voicemail means every year. Peter and I texted yesterday, and I thanked him for his bravery because he was a leader. Brian Weiser was the other vice president. He was in the room with all of the people in Williamsville. He had to keep 800 salespeople calm and up to date with details in case somebody called. This is what's happened. Yes, we have colleagues there, but we have accounted for them. So I text Brian every year and I say, thank you so much for your leadership. You were a true leader. My friend Erin, she was back at the office. She lives in Colorado now, and she says something that I don't want to repeat, but she texts me the same thing every year. And although I don't see Pat or Sherry or Mark or Jason or Amy or Todd very often, and I've been very outspoken. I do a lot of speaking on it. I am a member of the Tunnel to Towers volunteer program, so I do a lot of speaking on it because it helps me. And you know what else? It helps you guys, because when I first started talking about this, my older girls, Campbell and Francesca, went to St. Mary's. So I would come in every year into the senior social class, and I would tell my story. And these kids, I remember where I was, and then I'll never forget the first year where these kids weren't even born yet. And then I come here, it's 24 years later. When I found out on September 13th, I took a train home on the 12th. I went and got some clothes, and Peter admonished me for spending, $69.99 on some sneakers. And he's like, you couldn't find anything on sale? I said, really? We're doing this right now? You're stopped in the middle of the street in Manhattan with a receipt in your hand? Yeah, I'm gonna get the sneakers. So we joke about that every year. So we all got on a train on the 12th, on an Amtrak train, came back to Buffalo. The train was absolutely standing room only. And that's the first time I broke down, was the 12th, about in the morning. Because I was in this train, and I was getting to go home, and I was safe. And this train was pulling away from the city. I had just such a sense of gratitude, but yet such deep sadness for what I was walking away from. And there was a guy on the train, and he said, do you want my seat? And I said, yeah, I would like that. And I was calling my phone and picking up voicemails because my phone was still ringing. It was in there somewhere. And the voicemails that I were picking up was like, hey kid, I think you're in New York. Hey, haven't heard from you. And as the time went on, the messages were getting a little bit more urgent. And so that was really interesting to be able to do that on the train. So we got home on the 12th in the evening, and Ingram, my company, had arranged for a private reunion. So all 7 of us and all of our family members, they wanted us to have a space where we could just come and, because the media had found out there were people there, just come home and have that moment in private. And Campbell came running up to me with a balloon. She was she didn't know what she was celebrating, but she knew that I was home. And the 13th of September, I was meeting my mom for coffee at the Starbucks in Williamsville. I was with my sister and I said, you know what? I'm gonna run into Rite Aid and grab a quick pregnancy test because we've been trying to have another child. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna take it right in the bathroom at Rite Aid. And I did, and it was positive. And I looked at my mother and I said, I'm pregnant. And I called my doctor and I said, hi, this is Lisa Amatura. I am pregnant. I have a positive pregnancy test, but I don't think that the pregnancy is not going to be, I'm not going to be able to, it's not going to go full term. Definitely too much smoke, too much jet fuel, too much trauma, too much booze, too much cigarettes, too much, like everything, right? So I was like, and I'm not a smoker, so, and she said, you know what, it's going to be just fine. So 9 months later, on the 13th, I had Francesca, and she's 23 now. And she got to meet her sister. And I think one of the saddest parts for me is when I think about if I hadn't got out, nobody would have known about Francesca because I didn't even know. And she's her sister's best friend now. And I look at them and I think, nobody would have known about you. And that's one of the saddest parts for me still.
So, what advice, if any, do you have for the girls here? Because I know that times changed a little bit in terms of what was available to you then, and in modern day right now, 24 years later, with cell phones, and I know you had a cell phone, but technology has obviously, so looking back, do you think if that were to happen today, if anything would have been different or changed?
I think that my family and all my friends would have known where I was because I would have been taking pictures of the towers and I would have, all the things that I was internalizing, like I'm so lucky and the sky is so blue and, look at this day. I think the tendency now, even for myself, is to photograph it all. And so I think people would have known that I was there. And it's interesting because I can tell my story without photos. And so I'd encourage you that if you're doing something really special, just put the phone down and have that memory here. Because you can keep it here. You don't have to share it unless you want to. And if you want to share it, you can just share it and tell somebody. The sky was really blue. There was not a cloud in the sky, it was 80 degrees. And I felt lucky. But you don't have to say, here, look. And I do it all the time. So I think in that sense, I think there would have been a lot more, this just happened at the Trade Tower and Twitter and everything else. Absolutely. And I just want to tell you, I have some things here that if we have time, I'll, just kind of pass around. Don't worry, you won't have a toxic reaction to this. So, but I have never washed it. And the other thing I want to mention is that people got sick after 9/11. A lot of people. We've lost more firefighters to illness after 9/11 than we did on the day. And this shirt that I had rolled it up and put it on my neck and shoulders and walked back to the hotel with it for 3 hours. I ended up with melanoma 10 years ago, right up here on my back. Was it this? Was it the top? My grandfather had melanoma, could it have been that? But people that went there to help got sick, and they're still sick to this day. And it's really sad because, they were just doing what they love to do, right? So I just have some things that I'll pass around. Sure. And I just wanted to mention, this is a picture of St. Paul's Chapel. And this was a part of Trinity Church, surrounded by the buildings on 9/11. Trade Tower, World Trade 6, World Trade 7. This church not one scratch, not a broken window, not anything. And this church stands and remains today untouched. What is that? I think it's divine intervention. It has to be. So that's that. This is a pack of, I run in a race every year and we run with a hero. So feel free to open this up and look at these guys. These are the firefighters who laid down their life for us. And I always pick my hero every year by just looking down at the table, and whoever speaks to me, like, pick me up, run with me. That's who I pick. So these are the guys that I picked the last few years. This is a good one. So this is a picture of me and Tracy and my sister Christy. This would have been the last photograph that anybody ever took because we were on vacation. We would go to Canada every year. We still do, right on? And this was that we were packing up the cars. This would have been the last photograph. This is the weekend before 9/11, before everything changed. And I don't think I need to, I'll pass around this. This is just a book that I got when I went down to the memorial. Just gives you some sense of what the photographs look like. And this I won't pass around because it's really delicate, but this is a note from a guy named Mark Nadelsky, and we used to call him Needles. And so he put this little post-it note on my desk on September 11th, 2003. Thinking of you today, Needles. And he still, yesterday, he texted me, thinking of you, Needles. So that's really special. I've got to try and laminate that. And then this, I won't pass around, but this is a poem that my dear friend Tracy wrote. And all I can tell, we're going to go back and try and revive it because the middle words are gone. But it was something about fight, light, miracle, friendship. Thank God you are here today, my truest and best friend. You wrote me that. That's so cute. And a note from my mom, and so I won't pass those around. But if anybody wants to see, some of the pictures, I also have a book, the People magazine, the first one that came out after 9/11. It's a little bit ragged. I probably should have taken better care of it, but it came out on September 24th, 2001. I will pass that around too, just because of the pages. But yeah, let's have questions.
And I do want to share the video at the end.
At the end, yeah, it'll be about 4 minutes if we have it. Do you have time for questions or not?
A couple, yeah.
Okay. Yes.
What?
What's your name, honey?
I'm Liv. What happened? Like, did the guy with the dog die? What happened to him?
No. Mike Hingson is still doing pieces on Instagram Reels, and he got out. That dog and his colleague David helped him get out. He was slower than me, so he was just out of the building, and he was in the collapse with the dog, but he made it out. He wrote a book. His name is Mike Hingson and his dog Rosie. If you want to read about his story, that's who I was with. Maybe we'll give the name of the book after or something.
Yeah, that would be great.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Question?
Oh, I know you guys have questions.
There's a question over there.
That's a good one. So it was difficult, but I was also pregnant, so I knew that I had to take care of myself physically and mentally. So our company said to us, you don't have to come back to work until the 1st of January. So go take some time to heal. But it was 20 years of rough times. I mean, I poured alcohol on all of my problems and all of my fears and all of my memories. I thought that was the solution. It's not. So 8 years ago, I stopped doing that. And it was hard to adjust, but also there was that sense of, oh my God, what a miracle. You got out. What are you gonna do? Why do you think you got out? And it was like, maybe Campbell and Francesca's mom. Maybe just to be Tracy's best friend. Maybe that's all it was. Maybe it was because I went on and met Michael, my husband now, and had Ellie. So I think that sense of like, what are you gonna do with your life? And we all feel it, right? People probably already telling the seniors, what are you gonna do? What do you wanna do? I didn't need to have the answer because I knew the answer would come to me. There's another question. Oh my God, yeah. Go ahead, honey.
When did you realize it was a terrorist attack?
When we were still in the building, around the 50th floor, we felt the second plane hit, so we knew it was intentional. And then around the 30th floor, we had heard about the Pentagon. So we knew while we were still in the building that our country was under attack. Go ahead. Go ahead. Right here in the red.
Were you afraid of going into tall, after the incident, were you scared to go inside buildings as tall as?
I was frightened, and I still, when a plane goes over your house or it makes a certain noise, I still fear that that plane's gonna crash whenever I see it. So we live in Orchard Park, and some of the planes fly over our house at times, and I just have to stop myself because I'm like, that thing's gonna crash. It's definitely gonna crash. I remember flying after 9/11, and I was a mess. I said to the stewardess, I said, I am a wreck. I was crying, and she goes, here, come up to first class, and we'll take care of you, and I got through that. Buildings, no, I don't have any problem going up to a tall building, but it took a lot of time to adjust to the noises, right? So any loud noise or any crashing or, I still kind of get a little jumpy. Yeah, honey.
When you went back home, were you nervous to travel?
No, I wasn't nervous to travel. I was lucky that I had the time to not travel because I didn't have to go back to work until January, and then I had Francesca in May. I did choose at that time to not go back to that job. I was still with the company, but I said I can't do it. I can't travel to New York three times a month. So I left that position and I went to a position of inside sales, which was a step down for me, and I didn't care because then I got to be home with my family. So I was adjusting to that new role, and I didn't have to travel, and I was glad. Yeah, honey.
Whenever you go back to New York, do you have a different personal view of it now?
So it took a long time before I went down to the memorial, and actually Ellie and I and her dad, my husband, went to the memorial 2 years ago, and that was the first time I saw it completely finished and went through the museum. We went a couple times and it was still just ground zero. And it was just, so I try and stay in that hotel whenever I go back. And I haven't gone back alone, and I don't know what route I took. So I would love to remember and just kind of walk it and remember where I was.
So,
Yeah, honey. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we'll take one more question
Okay.
and then we'll show the video.
Okay, yeah.
Is there anything that you would do differently?
I don't know what I could have done differently. I think that I wish I would have told my husband that I was going to the trade tower? I don't know. But I think what it taught me was that we just go so fast in life, right? We're just going so fast. Going to my meeting, going to this, going to pick up Ellie, and we just have to chill a little bit and take the time to tell people that want to know where you are. I'm sure that's a bother to Ellie, that I always want to know where she is. But for me, it's just let people know where you are in case something happens. Thank you guys. You are amazing, strong women, and I can't wait to see what all of you do in your life. And even if it's what I love to do, cleaning, homemaking, taking care of kids, the best. So good luck.
Because
Thank you so much for sharing your story today. Ladies, as we go about our day, just remember that I love the music. It went perfectly with what you said. Just take a moment and just have gratitude and be thankful. Look around, be mindful, and just take that moment of silence. And yes, let someone know where you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I'll give you guys my email address.